It didn't take much more than a bottle and 2 chairs to make a speakeasy. This is what Daniel Okrent said in his book, Last Call, The Rise and Fall of Prohibition. Today, join us for some stories. Get your own bottle, glass, or mug, and relax. This is Speak Easily, and I'm your host, Krista Stauffer.
Yeah. No, but it's...
I don't want to talk about it too much before we record.
Oh, we're recording now.
Oh, hi.
Surprise, this is our style. Yes.
No. You couldn't do like a little woo-woo, some kind of blank.
Is that better?
That's how we should start every podcast now. It's just you go woo-woo, and that's that. I like it.
On the Stover Express. This is actually a time to ask a very vital question, just because, Krista, I've known you for several years, and it seems like there's a battle between Stouffer and Stauffer, and I've never heard you say your own name.
Stauffer. It's Stauffer. I am not a frozen food.
Whole lot of puns just got thrown out the window there.
I know nothing comes closer to home, but
yeah.
There was I guess when I first started back doing acting, my Facebook name says Krista Lively Stauffer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually really good because I have a light lisp on my S's now that I've said it. Now you'll be hearing it all the time.
What?
S. Like there's just a little...
It's a whistle.
S. Give me a really S-y, like I scissored those SpaghettiOs.
Wow.
That's a very visual one too.
I'm mad that it's the first thing I thought of, but please say it for me.
I scissored the SpaghettiOs. Can you hear the whistle?
Only not a full Winthrop Peru, but like
no,
just
it's not. No, it's enough that when you have the name Krista, and then you marry into Stauffer, then you have to Krista Stauffer. So in a way, it's easier to put the lively in there, even though it's not my middle name. But
how many times did you introduce yourself at parties like that before you went, this has to stop? I'm putting in a lively.
Probably.
This has to stop. This has to stop. Yes.
Sounds like Fire Marshal Bill, the Jim Carrey color.
Oh man,
that was a great character.
That dates all three of us for sure. Yeah.
I just know about it in retrospect. I wasn't.
Just a wee better.
Just a little bit. I don't know. I hit 31 and had plenty of. My body's starting to break down. So that was what was extra fun about having a global plan.
Hey, fun fact, it gets worse too.
Yeah,
just
it does.
Keep on hurting and hurting.
My back's been hurting for 3 days. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but
I mean,
it's interesting that I've been seen. So I have a theater background. I went to the Ohio State University. I got a BA in theater. So I have that background, and I currently work in the theatrical field. So because of that, I have a lot of friends who magically have movement training, Alexander technique, or whatever it really is. And the amount of group sharing going on for everyone saying, my lower back is killing me right now. That is the sub-pandemic to the pandemic. If everyone has a terrible lumbar support at home, and we're not working from our office chairs, and I feel like backs are just going out.
They are.
Yeah.
It's just weird. And I mean, part of why I was so excited to talk to you is that you are in the city. Mm-hmm. And things are a little different there than in Central Ohio. So before I say anything more though, hi, welcome to Speak Easily with Krista Stauffer. I worked out today and I didn't shower afterwards. So I just want to apologize.
That is the best intro you've ever done, by the way.
Thank you. I thought it was stunning.
Stopping halfway through to say that you haven't showered properly.
Exactly.
That is Krista Stauffer for
I'm
sure.
here and I'm not totally ready.
Isn't that kind of the mantra of 2020 though? Here I am. I ain't wearing pants, but you can't see that. So it's fine. So,
It was on my Google Calendar, but I didn't prepare.
No, so I'm so excited. Audrey, thank you so much for coming on and being willing to talk about this, because we typically don't have a theme. Why am I holding a pencil?
That matches
just
your sweater.
Stick it in your hair. That's where it needs to go, right?
For once, I'm not wearing a pencil.
I know, but you could be. You're holding a pencil.
It goes with your outfit. Put it in there.
It does actually match your outfit and everything, too.
What's up, Miss Grizzle? That's a whole Coordinated.
That's what I should change, is just take out the lively and just be Krista Frizzlestoffer.
I love it.
It flows. There's no, the list part is out. So
that's great.
Yeah. I always thought the word list was actually kind of a cruel way to describe that particular condition too. Is let's stick an S right in the middle of it so you can see, so the people who have it can trip over it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sort of like stutter. Why do you put 2 T's in the word stutter?
And what's the deal with airline food, guys? Right? I mean, since we're doing a shtick here, I mean.
On the topic of stutters, I do want us all to remember that in roughly 2006, R&B legend Joe came out with a song that really is quite ableist when you think about it. Okay. I can tell you're lying because when you're replying, you stutter, but he doesn't say stutter. He says stutter.
Ooh.
Which is rude.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think we gave him a Grammy nomination for that.
I don't even know who that is.
Joe?
Joe.
Do you pull up the
Google Joe?
Google Joe. Go to page 3.
Rapper Joe Biden came up. That's new.
Rapper Joe Biden.
I'm not ready for that.
That's 2021, man. I can't deal with that now.
I'm gonna pull it up because that's
possible.
And the song is called Stutter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
Look it up later.
Is it good for a workout playlist?
Technically, yeah, it's got a beat to it, but I would chase it with his not what's a duet when you do it with 3 people, but that third person is a boy band.
How many people are in the boy band?
That's when you get
4. That's a sextet. I know, right?
There's 7. Sep.
Oh, septet.
Y'all are teaching kids at home right now. I was going to say, thank God I found.
I'm going to actually have to check on the YouTube. This is an educational one for kids. So yeah.
Okay, so Audrey, you are in the city and you've been there. Have you been there like 3 years now? Has it been that long?
It has. Okay. June 3rd is going to mark 3 years.
Okay. And let's just clarify, when you say the city, you mean
New York City.
Is there
Big Apple?
Yes. I grew up just outside of Detroit. I lived in Columbus, Ohio for 10 years after that, due to going to the Ohio State University. And then just Columbus is awesome. So I continued to live there and work there, and was very involved in the theater community. So much so that I said, I should make this a full-time job. And I made the move to New York 3 years ago with a $2. What was it? $3, 2 bags, 1 me?
I directed the show. You'd think I know. $3, 2 bags, 1 me. Yeah, $3. And a dance spell and a tube of chapstick.
Keep it all tucked back and moisturized. Let's go. No, did that, and yeah, I've lived here and there around the city, but I've been up in Harlem, which is the north side of Manhattan, for people not too familiar, meaning when Godzilla finally comes, he will, that's my neighborhood, where he's going to attack Manhattan.
But at least you know that, because, you know, if this coronavirus isn't bad enough, Godzilla certainly should.
Certainly not. He definitely won't do that.
That fantastic Christopher Connolly. Enjoy that.
Yes.
Well, no, that's the interesting thing, is because I feel like cinema has prepared me my entire life for what any kind of massive attack or, you know, explosive event would look like in Manhattan. Mm-hmm. So much so that week 1 into the pandemic, I finally watched Cloverfield for the first time for fun. And did the whole thing, for fun. Did the whole thing that every New Yorker does when they watch movies, going, hey, I know that street. Hey, I saw a guy shit on that corner. Hey, I know what that is. But the sense of that anxiety that you get from watching those movies and thinking, oh my God, what would I do in that situation?
Yeah.
And realizing that the actual emergency that we're living through right now, it has not been made into a movie, except for maybe Cloverfield Lane, kind of, but I don't have John Goodman here with me.
Okay.
It's been weird being in a city that, you know, I've seen it play out so much before. It's like, you're going to have mobs, you're going to have this kind of pack mentality of people trying to like fight or flight it out.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been that. There's been a lot of quiet. There's been a lot of lovely moments. I know that I think it's nationwide that people are doing the 7 o'clock clap for workers, right? In New York, that's really amplified because every window, like the busy world of Richard Scarry, has a whole family in it that's leaning out. So it's been really nice. Every day at 7 o'clock, you get this genuine, joyous cacophony coming at you.
Cool.
Hello, Catherine.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, how are
Hello.
you guys? Hello.
Good.
Sorry, I called you by your government name. I saw it on the
My official name.
We should all have a government name. I haven't had one of those yet.
I'm not allowed to tell you what mine is.
Yeah, you'd have to kill me.
It's
How did you know that?
So we actually, this is one of our first, this is like our third time doing a recording, but we're excited to have 2 guests on tonight. So this is where I have to not talk with my hands, because if I point where I see Audrey, I don't know that everybody sees Audrey here.
They definitely do not.
That's Audrey. She's right there.
I'm assuming you pointed to the plant.
And then Kate's down here. Am I over here for you?
You're right there.
So
I want to leave. No.
Kate's like, yeah, I'm done. This is
Leave meeting. Where is that? Right here.
So the reason that I wanted to bring 2 guests on is because we have 2 very different perceptions, ideas, feelings, experiences from 2 people who have been a big part of what's going on with this epidemic and pandemic. We've gone to cooking items with it. In that, it's something that, as much as we talk about it, as much as we'd like to not talk about it, it is the topic. It's the thing that we're all talking about. We're trying to not think about it, but it's also important to hear true perspectives and to hear true things. And when I posted that I was going to have you guys on, there were a lot of people that came up with questions. So I think that people are genuinely, I've literally had this much wine. I think I'm just tired. Genuinely, Audrey's covering her face. She's like, yeah. But yeah, so let me start again. Kate, I know you just jumped in. Audrey, give us a little bit of the perspective of what you're going to kind of talk about tonight. Okay. Sort of where you are, I guess.
Well, I was born in 1989, and since then,
This is gonna be a good one, guys.
We talked a little bit. I've been in New York for 3 years, so I am a citizen of the big city, dealing with the pandemic as a citizen, and kind of the new psychological stressors that come with that, and challenges that you face every day, being in a place so dense with people and not being certain exactly what's going to happen day by day, which can be a little bit terrifying. Some of the best horror movies are about people attacking people, so also I work within the field of theater, specifically an arts service organization fundraiser, and it has been, of course, a blow to the theater community. This very socially distant time has not done well for a lot of performance professionals. And then also on top of that, I'm going to discuss the fact that I had and have recovered from COVID-19 and all of the fun ups and downs and ins and outs that came with that. So that's my little 3-pack there of what I have to offer today.
That's a resume right there.
Thank you.
Special skills. So that's why I wanted to bring Audrey on. And Kate, tell us who you are, my dear. I mean, I've known you for a little bit of time.
Yes, we've known each other for a very long time. Kristen and I went to Otterbein together, where I studied nursing.
She was a smart people major.
And I have been a nurse here in Columbus, Ohio, since we graduated in 2002, and been working here in the hospitals and in the outpatient office setting since that time. Have had many different experiences, and now as medical professionals, we find ourselves in this brand new time where none of us have experienced anything like this before. And it came about so quickly, we had to just turn on a dime and change how we do things. Yeah. So many things. And so, you know, I am experiencing trying to prepare my patients, trying to prepare myself to keep myself and my family safe. And also, you know, trying to work with my fellow colleagues, nurses and physicians, to figure out new ways of doing things and how we're going to go forward, because this doesn't seem like it's going to be going away anytime soon. So that's where we are. And in Ohio, we're kind of on, we're ramping up. We're kind of on the brink. We're nowhere near where New York is, and hopefully we won't get to that extreme. But that's what everyone here in Ohio is preparing for, kind of the worst case scenario.
Wow. Yeah, it's certainly an uplifting topic I chose for this evening. So thanks for jumping on board with that.
I mean, Kate, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's
for real. Seriously, thank you.
All of your humanity has been called upon right now, and it's clearly so needed and appreciated right now. So thank you also for, I'm really happy to see you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I really want you guys, Kate, here we go, Audrey and Kate, to to kind of lead this, but because I think that you guys probably will have a lot to say to each other on your experiences and what's happened. But I guess, Audrey, like, start us off. I mean, tell us when everything happened for you and sort of the beginning of everything.
Okay. I first started to show symptoms almost, not exactly 2 weeks, 16 days after my place of work went into a work from home situation. And I work for the Alliance of Resident Theaters New York, abbreviated ART New York. Our executive director, Jenny Lalutis, made the call to shut down just before the official calls came out. And admittedly, we all thought at the time, it's like, this is anxiety driven. This is preemptive. And then the world shut down like 2 days later. So she was ahead of the curve. So I had been pretty much quarantined. I took it very seriously from the start. We found out a coworker had tested positive. We got a call about 2 weeks after we were sent home. And he was doing fine. He was not doing fine. It's terrible, but he was at home. And after I got the message that day from my boss, I went outside for the first time in a long time, went to the grocery store, wore gloves, covered my face casually, didn't have a mask, came back. And that is the extent of the time I spent outside. And based on timing that we've heard about, at least so far, for when you can catch it and when you start to show symptoms, it would seem like that trip to the grocery store was more likely to have been where I would have picked it up than maybe directly from my coworker, just based on the timelines there. But what was kind of freaky about that is I was very cautious, and I think it's just a matter of we're in such a dense area where there's such a high infection rate that it's invisible. You don't really know when you're going to get it and when you're not, and how close is too close, and are you breathing in a 6-foot radius of somebody, and is that still too close maybe? I have no idea. But I started to feel not great. For me, the symptoms presented at first as, sorry, everybody, we're going on a ride here. I promise it gets better at the end. I got better. But it started with chest tightness and what I consistently and will continue to describe as the worst headache I've ever had in my life. I described it to a lot of people as that feeling when you cannonball into a pool and you shoot chlorine up your nose. If you just have that sharply and constantly. And the fever set in shortly after that. Relatively low, just below 100, and would kind of, for the next 12 days, I constantly did have a fever, or was just coming off of it. So I sweat the whole time. I lost like 7 pounds. which I'm going to take that as a silver lining. I mean, body positivity, but I was looking to lose a few, so that was nice. The fever came with it. I had some chest tightness at first, and that went away. At first, I thought it was going to be like a cold that was coming on. I had been familiar with that feeling. I'm 31 years old. I had been a smoker since I was in college and had just quit in the fall. In addition to that, this past fall, as some people know, I had a pretty scary episode in the hospital where I had a small cardiac episode that was tied in with a lung infection that left me with some nodules in my lung. So coming off of just quitting smoking and knowing that that had happened in end of October, November of last year, when they started saying, you know, who might be more at risk, I was in the B category. Yeah. For who was going to really have a problem with it. So I think the first week, one of the worst symptoms that's not really technically a symptom was dealing with just the fear and anxiety in knowing that every day I would have to log on and look for things from CNN to be like, what's the newest news on this? My doctor was available by teleconference, which was fantastic. I have a great primary care physician who is stuck in India right now because she was there when the lockdown was issued. So I've been conferencing with her in India. And she gave me great advice, and we did every 3 days we would do a check-in. But there's a problem in New York right now with a shortage of testing and supplies being available. So there would be different mandates almost every day on what the requirement was for you to actually go seek medical help, as like in person, going to a hospital. And I was always just below that threshold by my doctor's account. There was one day I talked to her 2 different times because I was like, I can't take a great breath right now. And I'll get into that feeling in a second because there's something really specific about the breathing restriction that was new to me. But living with the fear of not knowing where this road was going particularly, and knowing that it could lead to worst case scenario, a grave practically. Like it could have been that, or I could have been fine. And knowing that there wasn't any precedent to build on for, it's like, well, what does it feel like when you're about to pass? What does it feel like when you know, what's too much or too little? And then you'd get new alarmist reports every day about what was going to happen. And then you'd get positive sources, but a lot of those would be overshadowed by sensationalism. It's hard to get information right now. And our healthcare workers, bless you, Kate, are so bogged down with saving lives literally every minute that there just isn't the time to not only, I think, reflect on what the answers to some of these questions are, but also to send out answers to a lot of questions that people have when they're dealing with it at home, when they don't know if a roommate or a family member is getting too ill. Like, what's that line anymore? I'll just real quick go into the chest pressure, and then I want to pass on to someone else. When people were talking about having difficulty breathing and what the dry cough is, as a smoker of several things since college, I had experienced several times of coughing. I've had, a cold before, and it didn't quite register with me what it was going to feel like. It's not that anything was ever in my chest to cough up. It was that when I tried to suck in a breath, it was like everything was like the spongy elasticity of my lungs was gone. And I couldn't inhale enough. It would get about halfway full and then just immediately go, oh fuck, and shove everything out. And that was the cough, is just constantly recovering from your lungs stretching to the point of feeling like they were going to break from just even smaller breaths. And the kind of great thing was when I turned a corner and started to feel better, it was like 24 hours and gone. After about 20 days of yo-yoing and the fever,
wow,
and the last week and a half, it's like I started to feel a little bit better. And then the next day and a half, I was doing yoga in my living room and like was feeling really good and putting on makeup again. So that was
a long time. Nothing else really gives you that long of an illness, where you feel like this is touch and go. We could go either way from moment to moment for, you said 20 days or so to feel like that. Do you live by yourself, or did you have someone to help you?
Here's the thing there. I'm a very stubborn, independent person, but yes, I do. I have a great roommate, Kyle Rutkowski. Some people in Columbus probably know. We went to college together. We're very close. We have a great roommate relationship, but for his safety, I stayed quarantined in this lovely room, which is 7 by 10, and fun fact, the size of some jail cells, more padded, but it's
the window.
20 days, and during that time, we just essentially made sure everywhere I went, I basically had Lysol wipes on my hands, didn't touch anything, and we keep the place pretty much immaculate anyway, but Kyle was consistently cleaning, and he either never picked it up or was asymptomatic and was fine, which knock.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, which was really amazing. But yeah, if I ever needed anything, he ran to pick up prescriptions for me, which was great. So yeah, I was never thinking that, I might have an issue where I was just here for 3 days and cats were eating my face and no one knew I was here. I don't even have a cat, so I don't know how that would happen.
That
So
probably gives you a little bit of reassurance though too, knowing that if for some reason I am so short of breath that I cannot make it to the phone or make it to my hallway or whatever outside to call for help, at least there's another human being in the vicinity.
Right. And honestly, hearing his footsteps every now and then, it'd be like, okay, because it's when you are in a room for that many days, we're all socially distanced right now, but you go a little crackers, you go a little nuts, just a bit. It's a lot, and you miss people. And just the other day, actually, because I've been feeling better for enough days, but we were doing like games with friends, and we had been drinking a little bit and leaned in and touched each other, and I was like, oh, body contact. The person. So I did have someone with me, but I was pretty much, for safety purposes, in my room, eating in all that Tiger King.
Yeah. Do you feel like you knew right away what this probably was, or did part of your brain think, maybe this is just a sinus infection, maybe this is allergies, maybe I have a migraine, something like that, to try to make yourself feel better, or in, denial of some sort?
I think the line for me was when I chose to talk to my parents about symptoms. That was like me giving in to be like, this might be a problem. Because immediately, I would say the first day when it was just like chest pressure and honestly some like feelings of head stuffiness that was just beginning, that made me think, maybe it was a little rainy the other day and I took a walk. Maybe I just got some gunkies in my chest. It's fine. That was not the case. But as somebody who, like many others, was raised with WebMD throughout my early adulthood and like trying to avoid going to the doctor and self-diagnosing consistently, that was hard the first day. But also, how many people in the last month have Googled, what are the symptoms of COVID-19? And like, right? Well, and here's the bullshit thing about it, Krista, is, and I'm sure Kate can talk about this plenty, is like, it seems like there's the big three of the dry cough, the lack of being able to breathe, and the fever. But there's also so many other dumb waves to it. I lost my sense of taste and sense of smell for about 2.5 weeks. It wasn't even just nausea. I was completely and utterly uninterested in food, which is weird for me. Really, like I eat to comfort myself. I eat to celebrate things. If I ever get a cold, even if I get a stomach ache, I'm like, oh yay, soup all the time. I like soup. But with this, I was at maybe like 800 calories a day. Again, the headache was blinding, like behind my eyeballs was throbbing. So you're then Googling all of those symptoms too and being like, is this part of that? Is it pancreatic cancer like WebMD always says it is? I don't know. it's going to be something terrible. So yeah, but we're really only about 24 hours of true trying to self-diagnose before that next day, when particularly the headache and the fever were bad enough that I was like, I need to call a doctor. This isn't right.
Were you tested? At what point did you get tested? Or did you just
because of the issues with staffing in my area? When I first got diagnosed is when the federal government was just sending up the boat comfort to us, and they had put a regulation out around New York that your fever had to be like above 102.5, this very specific number, and or you had to have so much difficulty breathing that you genuinely couldn't breathe. If you did not present those two specific things, they were saying, do not go to an emergency room. So everything that I did, I never got the formal testing. I'm in touch with my doctor right now so we can do the post-testing so that I can do plasma donations once we hit about 3 weeks out here. But everything was just the touch and go and keeping in teleconferences with my doctor. And that really fed into the anxiety of it, is knowing something's wrong. The doctors are still learning quickly what it is. I don't necessarily know how to self-treat it. And I don't know how late is too late for me to call an Uber to go to the doctor. Because it's like when they tell you that, don't go until you really can't breathe. I'm like, define really can't breathe. Yeah. That's dead. What do I do with that? Yeah. That was a very long-winded answer. Sorry, Kate.
No, I think that's what everybody's been interested in now. And I know that Ben and I have another friend from high school who was also diagnosed. She works in the medical field too. And that was something like, people just want to know, because we see, like you said, it's a little bit sensationalized and everybody's just kind of going at it. And it's hearing from people who actually had it. Like, what did you experience, rather than.
And everyone's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. But it just seems long and miserable for those who that seems pretty consistent.
It's like grad school. Everyone's a little different. As long as miserable and you lose a little weight, it is fine.
A little different. Yeah. But I see what you're doing with that. Yeah.
And get a degree. Which, Kate, I'd be happy. I wouldn't be happy, but I'm interested to hear that. I had similar but slightly different symptoms from my coworker. I have a coworker's child who's going through it now. They're not a child, they're 23. But they're going through it now. And we kind of touch and go, what are some of those extra, 11th and 12th spices that people are presenting when they're coming?
Yeah,
No, sorry.
So thank goodness, I don't know none of our patients have tested positive yet that we know of, which is wonderful. Here in Columbus, I know 2 of the major health systems at this point have about 60 patients right now admitted, but there are so many people in the community who we don't know if they're positive or not, because testing here at this point is for health medical professionals or those in high-risk groups, older individuals, and you have to have the fever and the cough. Other things are what you've talked about with the headache. I've heard sore throat, lack of taste and smell, body aches, that kind of stuff. And then, of course, a lot of my colleagues and I, we worry that because we've been around so many viruses, so much bacteria for years and years and years, our immune systems are probably pretty good, And so we worry that we're going to be these asymptomatic carriers, And so every little, ooh, my throat's a little scratchy today. Oh, I have a little bit of a headache. It makes us worry that, is this it? Is this coming? So it's this kind of underlying anxiety that I think a lot of us are feeling,
Have you had hands-on or been around any tests before? And can you explain a little bit about even if it's just a best guess, it's like, what's the reason that there is such a shortage, and what would it take? Like, how complex are they really? How much has to be produced? Why is there such an issue with getting what I think we're all just guessing? It's like, isn't it a cotton swab? What's the issue?
Yeah, what's crazy and what I've heard is that it's all the pieces, parts of the actual test. And it's sourcing all of those materials from different places. And a lot of the countries where we have gotten these materials from historically, we're now not able to import as easily if they're coming from Italy or they're coming from China. And so, now it's also what's happening is, the federal government is trying to create a stockpile. And so now the states are having to kind of go through that network in order to get supplies. And now this week in Ohio, it's getting better. And as the weeks go on, it gets easier and easier to get tested. And I have heard rumors about the antibodies. They're going to be available in the next week or two. So it's happening so quickly. So it's what you were talking about with how you may be able to donate some blood, so that your antibodies that your body has created because you fought off the virus, then they're able to take those from people who have had COVID-19, clean them up, and then transfuse them into a patient who has COVID-19, is actively infected, so that allows their body to fight it. Because a lot of these people who, are over 60 and they have chronic medical conditions, their bodies are not going to fight it off as easily as yours did, And so once you go down, it's really difficult for them, to improve.
Wow. Jeez. Kate, what do you have to do as precautions before you go to work and before you step into your home? What sort of stuff do you have to do with PPE and everything like that?
So in our office, we are using masks with every patient visit, doing frequent hand hygiene. The same thing in the hospitals. So in our office and in the hospitals, we're taking everyone's temperature when we first arrive in the office, make sure no one has a fever. And in the hospitals, they're also giving people masks to wear when you first walk in the door, The interesting thing with PPE is that because Ohio is not quite to that peak yet, the hospitals and private offices are really being cautious with how much PPE they use. And so they've changed a lot of policies surrounding who actually needs the PPE and who does not need the PPE and how long can we use it for. That's been very interesting. For example, the N95s, in my nursing career, I've only seen those used for influenza patients and tuberculosis patients. Well, how often do you have a TB patient in, 2020? Sometimes, but not that often, and so we would use one, maybe 2 or 3 throughout the shift per nurse. But the hospital didn't need that many, so I think that's a big reason why we are having this shortage, of the N95 masks. Well, now if someone is suspected to have COVID or has COVID, that's the kind of mask that you would need to use. And they're now able to sterilize those. So the process being at the end of your shift, you take off your N95 that you wore the entire time and dispose of it in a container, and then they sterilize that for the next day. It's very interesting. And then also even the surgical masks, there's a shortage of the surgical masks as well. So those are the more like paper looking masks that people are wearing. And so those are used for people who are not suspected to have COVID, but you just wear those around the hospital. You wear them in everyone else's room to really more to protect them from what you might be carrying. So, yeah.
Audrey?
No, this is a question that I have specific to the N95 masks. There's been a lot of between the scenic and costume designers in the theater industry, there have been a lot of people saying, hey, I have some resources that can actually be used for medical purposes. I've seen both in Ohio and in New York, friends that I have that are involved in tech in some kind of way saying, you know, I was going through my shed and I found all these N95 masks. How do I actually donate them? And in the case of many of them, it's like, you know, oh, there's a hole in the bag. I don't know how to sterilize it. How do I sterilize it? What can I do and where can I send it? So do you know of something, I mean, specifically even in Columbus, are they accepting N95 masks from the public and even ones that need to be sterilized? And if so, where?
Yeah. So I am sure that they would accept donations of sealed N95 masks. If the package has been opened, I don't think that they would be able to accept it. However, that would be a really good thing to put out there for people who have a loved one with COVID-19. You know, so putting it out there on Facebook or wherever that they have the ability to donate it to just a regular citizen, you know, who needs to protect themselves. Yeah, that would be a great use. And then also, I was thinking about this, you know, you've heard about people making those cloth masks in their homes. Those are great to distribute to just the general public because my patients, bless them, you know, mostly all cardiology patients, a lot over the age of 60, everyone has a chronic condition. They have come in with all kinds of stuff taped to their face, you know, trying to protect themselves from this virus. And they just don't have the resources to go out and buy one on Etsy or, you know, whatever. And so if someone has the skills to sew that, there are all kinds of elderly people and people in need who need those things desperately.
Kate, what do you, I know that I've had some conversations with people about, I think Ben and I had one about the grocery store. Like when we go out to the grocery store or on our walk or what that's literally all we can do. So when we do those two things that we can do right now, like what do you say what should we be wearing? What should we be doing? There's a lot of speculation of, you know, do we wear gloves at the grocery store? Do we wear the mask whenever we're in public? No gloves.
The glove thing makes nurses and doctors like cringe. So when you're out on a walk, just stay socially distant. You know, you're 6 feet at least from people. There's no reason to wear a mask when you're unless you're in a congested area. If you're in a congested area, then yes. But thinking of, you know, suburbia, Ohio, you probably don't need to wear a mask. If you're on a busy city street, perhaps that would be a good idea. If you are coughing, however, you should wear a mask. Yes, definitely. When you are in the grocery store, you definitely should wear a mask. A cloth mask, a surgical mask, you know, whichever kind of mask. The glove thing, okay. So if you put a pair of gloves on in your car, and then you walk into the grocery store, okay, you're touching things, you're putting things in your basket, you're, you know, touching your purse, and you're touching, there's germs on all those things that you're touching, and then you're spreading those germs to all those other surfaces. And then you're driving in your car, and then you're going to get gas, and you get out of your car and you pump your gas, and all those germs that came from the grocery store are now on the gas, you know? Whereas a better thing to do would be to just wash your hands in your car, go do your grocery shopping, come back out to your car, wash your hands again, go get gas, wash your hands again, you know, because hand sanitizer you can't use that on gloves, and, you know, it's just better to just wash your hands and not wear gloves.
That's genuinely good to know, because today I definitely didn't take that advice, and I went grocery shopping with gloves on and a mask, and I'm used to throwing myself under the bus on this show, so it's yeah. So, but no, I was the guy, and but no, that is good to know, because I also don't like wearing the gloves. They're uncomfortable.
They are uncomfortable, especially when you wear them for more than 10, 15 minutes.
I can't imagine, man.
Sweaty, and no, it's not pleasant.
I get like little bubbles of sweat underneath them. They're terrible. It's yeah.
That, or if you don't have vinyl or latex gloves, I do want to do a PSA. I wore these Jane Austen bad boys and I got COVID-19. So stop wearing gloves. That's also just fucking stupid. Let's talk about that for a second. Like, there's a global pandemic. I'm going to put on these stretchy cloth gloves, and that's going to make all the difference.
I saw a dude at the grocery store today with plastic baggies taped to his hands. I swear to God, it was fantastic. I was
bag hands.
Come on, man.
I saw one of my patients came, and bless their heart, they didn't know anything else. They folded a paper towel. It was kind of impressive, and like duct taped rubber bands to the paper towel, and like put it behind their ears, and came in with that.
Human, am I right? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Exactly. Yeah. Someone else wore like a C collar, like those soft neck collars that you probably had to wear because you were in a car accident or something. And they just kind of like taped it up like above their nose.
Turtle. It's just
turtled themselves. Yes. Yep.
Okay, if there are silver linings to be had in truly everything, whether you're a blind optimist or just very privileged and blind to the world, but also past that, something that has been so helpful these past like 5-6 weeks, however long we've all been inside, is seeing just the most simple, accessible, zany to genius level things that people are doing on a scale from either entertaining themselves or teaching their children, or how can I help my neighbor? The amount of different ways people have invented that little grabby stick that has a claw at the end so they can hand things to each other without touching. Genius. There's MacGyvers everywhere in this country. And thank God they're putting it on the internet.
Well, we need the outside the box thinking. That is for sure right now.
Out of the box. Sorry.
So there were, when I put it out on Facebook that you guys were coming on, I didn't say specifically, we kept a little bit of it secret, but I did throw it out there as far as like, if you could ask one of these people a question, what would it be? So Audrey, one of my friends said, when your symptoms were at their worst on a scale of 1 to 10,
Seems like a really hard one to answer, just because like, what's a 10?
That's good. I was going to say there's 2 caveats.
10 is death, right? I mean, like.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing, is the 2 caveats are, what is 10 for this kind of new thing? I know usually when you go to the hospital emergency room, you get that little chart of different faces that say how bad's the pain. It's like, well, I'm not making that face, so I don't know. So when they say there's mild to moderate cases, and then there's, hospitalization and being on a ventilator, I still wouldn't even know, looking back, if mine fell in the mild or the moderate camp. I had a little nebulizer for a while. I'm like, does that count? Do the tools that you have? That doesn't seem right. That's so classist. But like, what you have access to, does that make it better or worse? I will say, and I stand by this, it was the worst headache I've ever had. Just the duration of it was something I had never experienced before. Again, it was about 20 days. And during that 20-day stretch, about 15 of those, my day did not consist of much more than trying to fan out my sheets because they were soaked with sweat. It's gross and I don't give a fuck. Sorry. My body is a wonderland. And that's what it did. So on the pain level, I mean, I've had gallstones before. That's a different kind of pain. I think the second caveat that was so important with it was it's so mentally taxing because of so much of the unknown, the duration of it, and the fact that by its nature, you need to go through it alone. for the protection of others. This is what you are going to go through, and you really shouldn't even be in a safe distance talking to everyone about that. So dealing with a new kind of isolation, this sense of, it's so weird. It's not like a fear of missing out, but seeing and hearing from people that were doing anything, and the anxiety and depression and pain that comes along with not being able to participate in life. And you are unable to participate in anything. I couldn't, there were like 4 different days where I couldn't pick my head up because I was combination so tired and so achy. So all of that put together, this is things that have happened to me. This is in my top 3 of things I've experienced in my life. And those things include, I had septic kidneys one time, and I had my tonsils were so inflamed that I couldn't close my mouth and swallow prior to having my tonsils removed. And this is up there in like those 3 are on my Olympic podium of things I've gone through in life.
Wow.
I've not had a kid. That's just around the river bend.
Take your time. Take your time. Take your time. Take your time.
It seems like the perfect time to nest. I figured if I was going to do it ever, I'd do it now.
Yeah. Anyway, children are great and they're wonderful. So, Kate, this question, and again, I know that this might take some time to think through, but it was posed to you. When did you become worried that this was a serious pandemic that could potentially reach you? And I think I remember this because I think we had a conversation with our friends group, and that came out.
Yeah. So, okay. So I tend to be someone who does not freak out easily.
She does not. It's annoying.
I'm like this, okay, let's just sit back and, look at all the facts, and is this really going to be as bad as it says it's going to be? And so, I had friends who were very worried early on, and I, said things like, well, like the flu is bad and people die from the flu, and this, that was kind of my perspective in like early February. I would say, is this really going to be that bad? That was my perspective. I was kind of in denial, I would say, about everything. I think part of that too is just not having the context for anything like this, and it was February 27th. I know that because I looked on my Amazon orders summary, earlier today, and on February 27th, I ordered face masks on Amazon because my really good friend, who Kristen knows as well, works at one of the major medical centers in Columbus, and that medical center was ramping things up, and she was getting kind of the inside scoop on what this major medical center was doing. And so having that perspective on things really started to scare me. And I think that was the starting point for me, thinking like, okay, this is really something that we need to pay attention to and need to take this seriously. And this really could be scary. And then I think it was I think 2 weeks later, I think it was March 13th when we had the order to lock down. So that was a very escalated quickly. Those 2 weeks in Columbus, I think, escalated quickly. And then, me, like everybody, we have these ups and downs of, it's going to be okay. We've got this under control. We have time to plan. But anytime something new would come, especially when that stay-home order, became a reality, I had a moment of, panic of, oh my gosh, I have to go to Kroger right now, and I had one of those panicked shopping trips where and I called my brother and my sister, in the aisles, Kroger right now. This is gonna, hit the fan. We need to get non-perishables and, completely irrational, not what I needed to do. But that was what did it. That kind of put me over the edge because that's scary. It's something that we've never experienced before. And then, hearing stories then from Italy and New York City of these doctors and nurses who I can imagine myself in their shoes. I mean, I know what that's like to be on a floor working and be overwhelmed and have too many patients and not to be able to be in 3 places at one time and have 3 people who need me and I can't be there, and that feeling of helplessness that I've heard from people, from nurses and doctors on the front lines. And it's terrifying. It's terrifying. And there's a lot of truth to people saying that as we go forward through the next few months and years, there's going to be trauma, I think. People are going to have PTSD from their experiences in these hospitals. I mean, seeing your patients just go down the tubes so quickly and you don't have the resources that you need, and seeing that much death and dying all around you day after day after day is what these people are experiencing. I know two nurses who are working in one of the COVID hospitals. It's like a hospital in New York City that's dedicated to only COVID patients. And these nurses,
yeah.
They used to work on an oncology floor.
Wow.
And so they worked with medical oncology patients. That was their gig, and all those cancer patients got taken out and it got full of COVID patients. And so not only is that not what you're used to doing, but now these people are actively dying right in front of you. And now you're taking care of people who are critically ill in the moment. And during our conversation, I said, well, they need to be intubated. You can just send them to the ICU and, they'll take care of it, in my naivete, and they said, there's no room in the ICU. Like, they stay on the floor where they are, on the ventilator, which is not something that normally happens, is not something that would happen at any of our hospitals normally, when they're not in this crisis mode. So I think,
Wow.
when you hear stuff like that from people that personally, firsthand, it's not, fake news. It's not some crazy headline. It's real. It's real. So I'm happy that a lot of other states have had the time to at least try, to get the structure in place to be better prepared. And I think in Columbus, we really do have good things in place, to take care of people as best that we can. So that's reassuring. But
I do want to, if I can, I want to piggyback off of, I thought I was on mute for a second. I want to piggyback off on that. The immediacy of having things happen around you, of seeing things and going, wow, this is so frustrating, versus what you see either on your social media, which I think it's important that we all remember that our social media is very much curated to us. So if something's going to excite us, be that a good excite or a bad excite, that's what you're going to see more of. So don't forget that, folks. Anyway, algorithms, bitch. But that's been something that has been really hard to digest. And I've talked with several of my other friends I'm in Manhattan. I have friends in Queens and Brooklyn. We do, Zoom sessions and chat. And the impact that it's had in the city here has not been exaggerated in the media at all. The worst thing you've heard is absolutely correct. The hospitals are overflowing. They are putting up emergency hospitals in Central Park. They have sent up the comfort to help us. I know several people who, I have a friend who inside of 1 week lost both parents to COVID.
God.
It is, when you live here and have a community here, you don't just know one person that's passed from it, not just has it. So when you start to hear things about Not even the debate of economics versus health of should we reopen or not. Just anything that's kind of denying how real and serious it is. It gets so frustrating because it's like, you're saying you don't think something's a certain way, and I am seeing in my immediate experience that knock, knock, who's there? It is indeed that way. And no, it's not the flu. And it is scary, and there's a reason that we are all inside right now.
That's important to know. I mean, it is because, like, I mean, fortunately in Ohio, it's been sort of, I guess, I mean, it's been relatively low compared to other places like New York. And, you know, I know a lot of people in my circles that are in that camp of going, well, I don't know. It seems like maybe we just need to get the economy going back up. I think that's the most important thing.
And to be mildly fair, I understand that for some people it's just about immediate perspective. If the economic crisis, and there is a real economic crisis, is what you are most impacted by right now in your neighborhood, then you're going to think, yeah, that's the worst of the two evils, because you haven't really had a solid bite of the shitty apple that is having an outbreak in your area. So there's part of me that understands that empathetically, that of course you want to respond to whatever is hurting you the most right now. But I do worry about people jumping out of a frying pan into a fire.
Yeah.
That seems like kind of what the situation is. I mean, across the board. I mean, either you either get sick and go through the whole thing, or you're going to get hurt by the economic side of the thing on the tail end of it. Which, I mean, who knows what that's going to look like at this point? You know, and I mean, how much all of this is going to have to change, and healthcare and everything else that has to. You know, we have to really sit down and readjust everything that we've done and how we've handled things. And, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah. I worry too, like as we go into warmer weather, you know, when it's bright and sunny and warm outside, it's number one, everyone wants to be outside in it, you know. Number two,
I'm one. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. It's hard to feel like there's something terrible going on when you look up and the sky is blue and birds are chirping and everything's wonderful. And I worry that as we start to open things up again, it's also as the summertime is starting to start, and so people want to have picnics and people want to do all their normal stuff, and I worry that's going to be a perfect storm, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for us, I mean, we have young kids, and it's like, you know, we're going bonkers trying to keep them entertained inside the house. And, you know, so, okay, let's go out and let's go do something. Today we went to Blendon Woods and we walked, because you can't go on playgrounds. You can't touch anything that other people touch on a regular basis. You don't want to, you know, accidentally contaminate somebody else if you're a carrier, and you don't want to contract it, obviously, you know, but you know, it's really hard on a nice, beautiful day. You want to go out and do something and, you know, move around, and you shouldn't.
Have you introduced your children to stick in a hoop?
That might be tomorrow's activity. I'll be honest with you, because we're running real dry over here. So
kick the can for next week.
we've had, my kids have started making movies, and
that's cool.
As dorky as that is, like, the problem is getting them to not focus on the blooper reel. I know that's a shocker coming from my house, but let's try.
As somebody who makes videos for a living, that is what most people focus on, is the blooper reel. Every time, look, a little global blooper reel. Great.
Not when you say it.
Yeah.
When you call it off, yeah, no, I'm not going to put it on there now.
Oh my gosh. So Kate, somebody else had asked, first off, how are you doing? Second off, is there anything we can do to help you and your colleagues other than staying at home, of course?
Mm-hmm. I think first of all, just asking how you're doing, you know, that really does make you feel good, you know. When someone randomly texts you and just says, hey, you know, I know you're out there in it, like, how are things going?
Yeah.
You know, it number one, makes you realize that your people are thinking about you and noticing that you're doing the work that you're doing. And number two, if you're having a moment and you really need to let it all out, and that gives you the opening to really, you know, let out what you need to say and really just unload. So that's been really nice when people just send a quick text or just ask, how are you doing? It's a little bit
So
different.
you're suggesting talking through your emotions is a good and healthy thing to do?
Yeah.
Weird.
It's been shown to have some benefit for different.
So bottling it up is bad. Is that what you? Okay. Weird. Huh. That goes against literally everything I was raised to believe. So.
Doing the theater would tend to be someone else for a little.
Oh, yes. That's also very healthy.
Find
Yes.
out all your feelings that way.
Keeping yourself insanely busy so you don't have to think about the things that are wrong. Yes, that's another one.
About the pandemic? I don't know. I'm on the Titanic right now.
I don't have time to worry about that. I'm working about.
It would be a good coping strategy. I don't know. Be someone else.
Like you said, strategy instead of mechanism. So yes.
Yeah. So just reaching out to people that who are, and not just healthcare workers. People who are working at Amazon, and people who are working at Kroger, and people working in construction, and all these jobs that are still kind of pittering on. And then the thing about the masks is real. If you are at all crafty, keep doing that and distribute them to everyone on your street, just to make sure everyone has it, because most people don't, is what
Can I ask a really ignorant mask question? I know that the N95 masks they're a specific thing. Like what is the fundamental functional difference between 95 mask and one of the other kind of paper, what are they called? Just surgical masks?
Surgical masks, yeah. I'll try to answer this correctly.
No, go into specific details, please. Schematics are good. Yeah, we can get into that.
Okay, so basically, the reason you would use an N95 is if whatever contagion you're trying to prevent transmission of has particles that are extremely small. And so the N95 is able to filter out those very, very, very tiny particles. That's the reason. So the large ones, bandana, surgical mask, anything across your face is going to block it. But these particular viruses are extra sneaky and can get through the regular surgical masks. So the N95 has some kind of filter in there that is able to filter out those tiny little particles.
Okay. That helps. Okay. Man, viruses are dicks, guys. Seriously.
And they keep mutating and changing and
assholes. Seriously.
Find that T-shirt and more on the merch page.
We should totally do that. I think
And what is the deal with airline food? Seriously. I mean,
you're cut off. You're cut off. Let me go to another question here. I just lost my track. But I mean, before I say anything else, guys, this is amazing. Just to have the two.
Yeah, this is really cool.
Ben and I are just kind of geeking out at this whole situation. No, but I mean,
fandom circle.
It is. I think when we get to those places, and Kate, I know I've been here when we've had our conversations, and you've seen it. I mean, my friend Ryan yesterday said, unfortunately, this quarantine time brings out the worst in some of us, or it shows us the worst of us. And it's being stuck in that, oh, this is terrible. Oh, I'm sick at home. Or, oh, I have to deal with kids for a longer time. What's been so eye-opening is when our group, so Kate and I, we were in the same sorority. I know, sorority, right? Shocker. No, we didn't have pillow fights, Ben. Shut up. Wow.
That wasn't where I was going. I was just going to say I'm another sorority.
His last name's Neanderthal, not Neanderthal. You leave him be. He's a modern man.
Right.
He respects you.
But we have a very tight friends group. There's, 9 of us that we all went to college together, and now our husbands have all gotten to know each other. So we've been, alas, we've been going to Hocking Hills now for the last 10 years as a group. And since this thing started, we just started doing Zoom calls, which I think the first one was all this is fine, it's fine. And then the second one was kind of oh my gosh, hearing from you and hearing from our other friend who works at the other hospital and hearing from our friend who is a firefighter, it sort of all came to a head. And suddenly it was like, wow, me fighting with my kids over their homework is really kind of stupid in comparison to what you guys are going through. You know, I mean, you're also fighting with your kids over homework, Kate, but you know, like,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a big struggle because it's those of us who have, you know, kids at home. I'm sure at least some of us are, you know, wish we could be there with them. And, you know, my girls are begging me to stay home every morning when I leave for work. And it's heartbreaking on one hand, you know, because you are leaving them and you do want to be there for them and help them. But on the other hand, you know, you wouldn't really be doing this. Like, I wouldn't be doing this as a nurse if that was not part of who I am, you know. And I think most people, they got into the field of medicine for that reason. You know, it's we all do what we do because it's part of who we are, you know, for the most part.
Yeah.
So it's just this pull back and forth constantly. Like, I want to help, but I want to just be home. Like, why can't I just be home? You know?
Yeah.
There's something in there also, Krista, that I think it's important that we all bear in mind. Let's talk about shame for a second and how I think a lot of people are kind of resting on this philosophy of trying to compare their situation to others and gauge how they should feel about themselves.
Right.
That better or worse based on someone else's experience. And I think what's odd is everyone has had some sort of life-altering shift happen in response to a common challenge that we're all facing. But what that looks like is so different. Someone like Kate, who is in the medical field and has a family at home, and kids are, if they're school age, they're not at school right now. I hope not. But if they're home right now and dealing with those pressures versus people who are working from home versus people who don't want to leave their home but need to because they've been deemed essential, and then people facing financial hardship because they've been furloughed or laid off entirely. So it's this scale of like, do I have the financial anxiety? Am I bored? Am I overworked right now? What does that look like? And just even thinking, what does it look like 3 months from now? And the fact that no one still knows. I think we can only really do the comparison thing when it's kind of like trickily helpful for our own mental state to say, like, it's not that bad, it could be worse. But by no means should I think anyone put themselves down to be like, you know, why am I so upset? I don't have it as bad as someone else. Don't look at it that way. We're all going through some shit, and it may not have even fully caught up with your brain yet, the trauma that you've experienced in response to
well, in a lot of ways, the trauma is kind of ongoing too. And it's the kind of thing that, you know, you do have to kind of be gentle with yourself a bit, because it can be very easy, especially when it's like, you know, every day. I mean, we all kind of joke like, what day is it? I mean, yeah, I'm not entirely sure. I think it's Thursday at the moment, but I mean, you know, it doesn't really matter at this point until everything starts back up, and who knows when that's going to be. So we're in the boat, we're all fighting the same thing, and we all need to kind of, you know, just be gentle on ourselves and be gentle on each other too. I mean, what I'm doing and what the battles that I'm fighting are different than somebody who actually had the virus, different from somebody who's working in the medical field, and, you know, and that's something to just keep in mind and be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah. I do love that you said, oh, you know, our Hocking Hills group. I also had this conversation with my Hocking Hills group. I have a cabin group. We have weekly check-ins now, and we were just discussing this specifically. And something that came up was the idea of how the word trauma, we've almost stigmatized it really in the past few years. I think it's been, if you want to politicize a word, which, fuck, let's do it.
Why not? Everything else is weird now.
I know, right? Well, let's have fun with it. So let's gender it too for no reason. But trauma, I think, has very much been placed for some people's views as like this snowflakey word of something very in the left, where people are like, anything that upsets me or that I don't like is my trauma. Whereas it's also got this real applicable sense of like, you know, PTSD, someone who's seen war, someone who's been in a shocking event, and trauma being something that needs medicinal treatment, it needs psychotherapy, it needs all kinds of attention, really and truly. And it is important to remember where that word trauma comes from and the fact that we are all dealing with it right now, because we have had a unified, as a species, major life event that has financially, socially, and for some people physically impacted how and whether we live.
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Soak it in.
Amen.
What, Ben? Ben?
Benjamin, unmute yourself, darling.
Terrible producer. Come on.
I'm bad at this. Click to another window. How dare I? Yes. No, I mean, it's almost like it's like an alien invasion of some kind, where it's like we're all unified against fighting this one weird thing that's from somewhere else, and it affects everybody the same way and doesn't give a shit what our role is in the whole thing. And you know, we just have to support each other and realize that we're all on the same team.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
wow, that sounded really, I don't know, inspirational in some weird way. I should write that down. I'm gonna write a book now. So yeah.
Well, and I know for me too, it's like, you know, I've always been a person that stupidly thrives on being busy. And Kate, you know this about me. Ben, you all know this about me, but it's like, you know, having this I need to be doing something to feel worthwhile or to feel relevant or to feel needed or useful. And yes, I'm still doing some of those things. I mean, from the moment everything shut down, Ben and I were like, nope, we're going to figure out how to do a podcast and keep going. So that's not ending. I mean, my work is not ending. I've got a couple of projects going and that's not ending, but it's like, there's still, even in this weird time, that feeling of like, well, I can't just sit and Netflix. I should be doing something. I'm not doing enough. I'm not making creative things. I haven't learned how to sew, and I haven't baked a bread. You know, and I know that so much of that is social media, and like, but there are enough things out there of like, I made it through the day.
Yeah.
There it is. Or I didn't sleep in until 10:30 because I couldn't get out of bed. You know, and it's hard to admit those things because I'm not typically a depressed person. But yeah, I'm absolutely depressed right now. There's not a lot of motivation to get up because that's when homework starts in our house. And, you know, with that, go ahead, Kate.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I lost it.
I have no choice but to get up first thing in the morning because my toddler is like, you're getting up. So yeah, I'm bored and hungry. So yeah. And then it's just noise all day long, and you know, but it's delightful noise, and it's, you know, I make it sound like it's a chore to take care of my kids, but I mean, in a way, it's yeah, it is, and I definitely don't mind putting them to bed at night. But it's been really nice to hang out with my kids and go on walks and go do things and participate in their learning, and you know, if this hadn't happened, I probably would have gone their entire scholastic career and not had an opportunity like this. So, you know, and I guess that's hopelessly optimistic, but you know, that's it.
Yeah. Just, you know, I remember like 2 months ago talking to some friends and saying, I just can't get off this hamster wheel. You know, I feel like I'm go, 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 go. We do work, we do school, we do activities, we do, and I just feel like I cannot, we are constantly busy. I don't know how to stop this. Is this how it has to be, you know? And then so abruptly, it just stopped.
Everything stopped. Yep.
And you know what didn't happen? The world did not implode. You know what I mean? Like somehow you can be a family and you can be a person and just be at home, you know, and just enjoy each other. And it really, for a lot of people, I think that's a good lesson in that, just be still, you know, you don't have to, and it's hard not to go, go, go and do. But when it's forced upon you, then you kind of learn a new skill.
And it's ingrained in your brain too. And, you know, everybody, I think if you're an American, you're kind of raised to, you know, work is kind of the ultimate thing. And that's what you do. And, you know, when something like this happens, I think the people who are like the workaholics are the first ones to kind of go, oh God, what am I going to do? I can't do things now. And, but I don't know. I in a creative field, you have a little bit more free time periodically, I think. And, you know, so it's kind of nice to be able to enjoy that part of it, you know? So
Krista, I'm very similar in that so much of my mental health seems to rest on a combination of Lexapro, Wellbutrin, and being constantly busy with something, which I'm very happy I found my medications. They're really helpful right now. But also past that, something that has been tremendously fortunate for me. Let's talk about good things that I've been over the last month, is that I am in the arts field and I have a full-time job with health benefits still. That's huge.
That's awesome.
And I'm grateful for it every day. And not only that, the need to feel like right now that we're being helpful in some way. I think there's something really altruistic in everybody where it's like, I want to contribute something. The organization I work for, that I work for was for 40 years has been providing funding, education, workshops, and advocacy for all of New York City nonprofit theater. If you know of a nonprofit theater company in New York, ranging from Broadway levels to like Manhattan Theater Club, Roundabout, if you look at like Lincoln Center, down to people that just moved to the city and said, you know, we have maybe $5,000 to scrape together, let's do a show. That whole spectrum of theater. And it's the job of my company to, again, advocate, provide the funding, provide the education to how to be a company. So right now, the need for what we do has almost never been more needful, because we're in an odd position where we need to look at, okay, do we think that theater is as essential as medical work right now? You know, you can't compare those apples and oranges, and also just flat no. We need to support our medical field right now, but at the same time, social distancing, these practices in place, how can theater exist in that world? It's essential that you be physically present for the specific profession. And we have thousands of people in the city right now who are out of work, and hundreds of theaters that might be in a position where, depending on how long this goes on, can they actually reopen their doors? So what does that look like culturally for New York? What does it look like economically for New York when you have these thousands of professionals that don't have something to do? And conversely, how do we support them or find alternatives? And how do we rebuild once those doors do open in a few months? Looking at like performance venues that have flexible seating so that you aren't cram-packed into these little airplane seats like we usually are when you go to the theater with your knees in the back of somebody's shoulder blades, just making friends with everybody around you. Can't do that anymore. And people won't want to, even if it's said that it's safe. We're going to be uncomfortable for a long time getting close to people.
Yeah.
So this past month, having that financial security, knowing that I have healthcare, and knowing that I get to immediately do something that is incredibly impactful, not only to other people, but to something I care about, which is theater, has been tremendously helpful mentally right now. And I can never count my blessings enough for that. Even while I was sick, my work was very supportive of me and wanted to make sure that I got better first. Even though I probably sent a few emails while I had a fever that may not have been grammatically correct. But yeah, I think that's been incredibly helpful, is having something meaningful to focus on during all this time. And if you've been furloughed, I think it's so important for everyone to find something immediate for them that they can focus on and take care of, even if it's just like growing a tomato plant, just something small where you can get immediate impact, where you can see a result of something you've done that's good, is huge right now.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I'm gonna end with that.
I love seeing all the the arts that are out there people are doing remotely. it's touched my heart seeing like, you know, Nora Jones and all these singers posting things on Facebook. What our kids did, the Mo Willems drawing, he does as like a drawing lesson for kids every day. Just people like come forward and do things that they really don't need to do, you know, just to try to make an impact on the greater world, you know? And so people who have talents like that, you know, that's a great outlet for them, you know, to kind of reach out there and share their talent and make people happy.
And then we have people like Krista who brings all those people together and makes sure that they have a hub or at least someone to depend on to give them, you know, a reason to, oh, maybe I need to get up today to film something because Krista's group needs, I have to report to the squad on the quarantine creatives.
Yeah.
It's really taken off. Yeah, no, and good for you. And we needed it. God, you turned around so quickly with that. Well, you were already engaging with the community for years before then, of just doing statuses like, how's everyone doing? Here's a topic.
So for me, social media has always been kind of weird because I plummeted into stay-at-home parenting when Facebook came about. So like 2008, I joined Facebook. 2008 was the first year that I was home. And Kate can attest to it. I'm not a great stay-at-home person. So for all of that time, Facebook suddenly became this way to connect. And it's like, how can I connect more on a social distance? So this, oddly, maybe I have been preparing for something like this on social media. That's kind of embarrassing to say, but it's sort of that I found my platform a long time ago of like, what do I want to see of people? How do I want to engage people? Because it's selfishly for me too. It makes me feel human to see people out there and doing their thing and engaging with others. And I mean, I laughed today, Ben. I think you and I talked twice, and both times was like a pretty elongated phone conversation, which we don't typically do.
No.
But we do that so much more now.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a horribly rough day. And one of our best friends was celebrating his birthday in Texas. And it was like, I don't know. It's been a rough day. I may not get on the call. And I got on the call, and it's like a flip of the night of just to see people and to hear voices and to feel, even though my duff is in the same chair in the basement behind my bed sheet that's taped with red duct tape to the wall, because that's
don't call attention to it, man. You can't do that. It's a perfectly designed set. It's wonderful.
Whatever.
Your pot plant back there too.
That's blue. It's
but you know, it's like to take that moment to connect with people, and that's what people are doing. People are having conversations. Ben, you said today, because you are pretty much an introvert, but you said you started having conversations with random people.
Well, no, we went to Blendon Woods and we're going through, and there's other people who are walking and jogging and that kind of thing. And I've noticed this in general, just like if you go out, like it used before this happened, like people would kind of pass each other and they may nod, they may, you know, kind of smile at each other, that kind of thing. You know, but now it's like, hi, how are you? How are you? Are you feeling well? Are you doing well? How are things going on right now? Are you enjoying your walk in the woods? It's nice weather, isn't it? It's really lovely out, you know, and then they're like, okay, bye, you gotta go, you know, and it's, you know, it's, I don't know, sort of the craving of the human interaction it's gotten a little intense at times. So
you want sampling of that as far as like how intense you want to talk about being in Manhattan, the most
I can imagine.
Everyone's got somewhere to be and not looking up. So it is already visually trippy going outside because one, if you're going to the grocery store or pharmacy, and that's about the only places you're going, there are lines outside 6 feet apart of people waiting to get in, and pretty much everyone has a mask on. But past that, when you're walking up and down the street, even just getting some air, it's all these masks and eye contact. Every time you pass someone, they dead eye contact with you, and you get that little sparkle, that Tyra Banks smiles, where you can tell that they're engaging with you in some way, and that doesn't happen. That was not a thing before.
Yeah.
Not because there was any animosity; it's just not the way of life.
See, I feel weird going to the grocery store and like, I'm so used to like when I see people, I kind of smile, nod, that kind of thing. And now in the grocery store, I've got a mask over my face. So I'm like, they're like, I'm like, oh, they can't see me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm smiling at you. Want to be like, hello, I am smiling at you. Yes.
You know what it calls attention to? I feel like this is something that, at least from my experience, is very specific to Caucasian women in a workplace, of saying hello in this way. Like you're mouthing high and you maybe exhale a little bit. Can't do that with a mask on.
Guys do this.
Find your voice. So
that's our thing. Yeah, we go. The silent, no. Like a little baby bird that's trying to do a little squeak. I realized that was great for a podcast medium. Literally opening my mouth a little bit.
Sarcasm is really hard with the mask on too. That's been difficult a couple times. All we can see is your eyes, and it's not as expressive as normally.
Oh, I love that.
Are you insulting me right now? I don't know.
That's a Monty Python sketch. Is what it needs to be.
The other thing that's really hard with the mask on, okay, there are a lot of hard of hearing older adults in this world who truly cannot hear anything that you say, and for the last 15 years have been reading your lips, and you don't realize it until you're
Yes.
and they're like,
oh, no.
What?
That is also a thing when you think about the hard of hearing and capital D lowercase d deaf community is, a lot of people have gotten by because our current way of living doesn't naturally provide interpreters wherever you go. So they've survived for a long time based on lip reading. It's like, oh shit, that's gone now. So how do we pivot and accommodate everyone as a society? So many things to be conscious of these days.
I know. And like, I'm making jokes about, it's like, oh, it's weird to emote with a mask on, and the medical people are like, yeah, dude, we know it's hard. It's like, oh, right, okay.
But that's the whole thing of this, is like, if there is any one thing that is already happening, is that people are so much more cognizant and aware of each other, negatively or positively. But it's like, for once, we're finally paying attention to each other.
For the first time in a long time, yeah. It's it's nice.
We've been so busy, we can't, like, say that again.
It was just, he said it's nice, and I'm like, stop. But it is, though. But it's hard. I wish we can come to this, but yes.
I mean, yeah, okay, nice. Obviously, I'm saying that with a massive grain of salt, but yes, I mean, it's obviously things are terrible, and we don't want people to suffer or anything like that. But I mean, like, there's silver linings if you look for them. So
you're right in the playbook.
Yep.
There's also Silver Cuervo. I think Jack Daniels has a silver label. Johnny Walker has a silver, right?
Absolute does. And if it doesn't, I'm about to write them a letter.
Oh, are these boozes? Is that what these that we're talking about?
Talking about perfume.
Oh.
Liquids,
I don't know anything about perfume.
Well, guys, we are going to bring this to a close, but my gosh, this has been incredible. Especially because I think initially my thought was like, well, let's have Audrey on for a while, and then we'll say goodbye, and then we'll have Kate on for a while. And I am so glad that didn't happen, because it was so cool to see how you guys yeah. And I know that people are probably going to have questions after this. We're going to be posting this probably tomorrow, which, if you're watching, is today, which is a day of the week.
One's mind is like,
I know. I have a friend that posts on a whiteboard every day, today is day blank, the date is blank, the day of the week is blank. And I legitimately go to his page every single day, first thing in the morning. Thank God for Clint right now, because otherwise I wouldn't have any idea. It would just be the day of the week.
I'll give you $1 if you start commenting fake news on his posts.
Stop.
No, it's not.
Audrey, I don't want you to have to Lysol $1 and put it in the mail.
I'll do it.
She'll Venmo.
Coins, they carry less, right, Kate?
What did you say? Oh, coins carry less? I don't know. Probably. It's more porous than a paper dollar. You can put the coins in the dishwasher. So yeah.
Dishwasher, aren't you fancy? I live in New York. Sorry. I want to
hot water.
Hey, Audrey, if it makes you feel any better, I live in Westerville and we also don't have a dishwasher. It sucks.
You have kids? You have 2.
Yeah.
Dishwashers.
No. Yeah, that's pretty much what would happen. I think the thing is like this time of telling your kids to stay away from friends, not touch each other's toys. It's like, this is when we see how they still haven't grown out of licking things, putting their hands where they don't belong. It's like, wow, you are disgusting humans.
Every time I take my daughter literally anywhere, she finds little rocks on the road and puts them in her mouth, and I cannot stop her from doing it. And it's like, oh my God, you are so bad at this. But
one of these days, she's going to do it, pick up a rock and look at you and go, they were here. You know what it meant. She's going to help your whole family.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, this is brilliant. But thank you so much, Audrey Rush, Kate Kort. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Glad you're feeling better. And Kate, thank you for your work. Appreciate it. Thank you. And thank all of you for tuning in and listening and watching. If you're watching this, or however you're consuming this with your eyeballs and ear holes, and if you like what you hear, please like, subscribe. Click the little thumbs up icon. That really helps us, or hit the bell icon. That helps us out as well. If you want to hear more topics like this, let us know. Find us on Facebook. That's kind of our primary landing page where you can suggest topics, ask questions, that sort of thing. And we check that pretty much all the time. I think we make that pretty clear. We're on Facebook all the time, aren't we all right now? If there's other topics, other people you think we should talk to, let us know. We'd love to hear about it. Krista, where else can people find you on social? You know where?
Instagram sometimes.
Okay.
That's it. I don't do the Twitter thing because
okay. Perfect.
Post the quarantine creative group. People follow.
Yeah, that's a huge thing right now. That's awesome.
It's been really cool to see that happening. And we also started a virtual theater group where each week we're trying to put up at least one work of theater. They have to
also
be
awesome too.
But we've gotten casts together of shows that have been produced here in Columbus, and we've also put new scripts into play. So that's been cool to see people, and we actors need it. I mean, just to do something. And the other cool part that I've noticed, especially as an acting teacher and acting coach, is now we have to learn how to act to the little dot that's on the screen. So even if Audrey is my scene partner, I can't look at Audrey while I'm talking to her. I have to speak to her as though she's this little green dot at the top of my computer. But it's
Everyone's going to come out of this with a reel.
Yeah, it's teaching stage actors now how to work with a camera. So it's been a really unique learning experience, a learning curve for us too. And it's also fun to see the inside of everybody's home. So,
ooh, we ought to make a new game for the video portion of this. Is what is in the background of your camera? Well, what can we see? So, like Audrey, I see a few images and pictures behind you here.
Is there a cupcake?
It looks like a cupcake back there.
No,
a flower.
I think I will share with you one of my little pride and joy things. It's a little my phone. It's a little secret that I have. This is all of it, by the way. This is where I was for the quarantine. I have a bed. I have my
New York
library, and there's my window.
Oh, you got a window. What's the window look at?
All my neighbors.
Nice.
But something that's fun in my room that I enjoy sharing is all the little bugs. I'm like a
cool
entomologist. And everyone usually says, "Oh, that's cute. What's up there?" And then the number of people that get up close and go, "Ah!" is my favorite. Right. That's my fun thing in my room.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And Kate is in her amazing. Is it a Florida room? Do we call it that?
It's really cool.
I call it a sun porch. I don't know what it's really called, but I chose this room because, as you see, there's this door right there. And I can shut the door and close the curtains, and no one knows I'm in here.
And it's like a little tiny vacation just for you.
And that is why I chose this space. It's a little cold because it's not a four-season room. It's a 3-season room, and it's 30 degrees outside, but it was worth it. I got my blanket. I'm good.
That's awesome. Love it.
No little pitter patters coming in to bug me.
Yeah,
Nice.
I keep hearing that above my head too. So, but guys, thank you again so much. Thank you, Kate. And we literally could not do this without you. So thank you for everything that you and your coworkers and bosses and compadres and their family are all doing. So thank you. You're amazing.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Love you guys. Thanks for listening in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Bye.
Boxland Media. Think big.